Martin Del Campo, and this is my risk management matrix project. This is the matrix that I'll be using. It labels the likelihood from rare to almost certain, and the severity of the consequence from insignificant to severe. My first scenario is flying through IMC. IMC stands for Instrument Meteorological Conditions. My first hazard is low visibility. The risk is having difficulty finding a runway. This is from personal experience, as I encountered this flying back from Dallas to Longview. The clouds were at 200 feet, so it was very hard to find where the runway was while doing the approach. The likelihood of this is possible, which stands at the middle, and the severity is it's only minor, so the residual risk comes out to medium. The mitigation strategy, which is also what the strategy that we used, was a go missed, which is is when you fly to a predetermined altitude to try a go around, to try the approach again. Or if you're not comfortable, you can always ask to be vectored to a different location that has different conditions if you don't want to retry that approach. My second hazard is spatial disorientation. The risk is getting lost and or losing altitude. The likelihood of this happening is it's likely. If you're not very used to being in these conditions, you might get a little distracted while using your instruments or looking at your tablet, so the risk can occur. The severity is labeled as a moderate because if you're flying up high, a quick loss in altitude or a quick change in your heading won't be too big of an issue. But if you're flying close to mountainous terrain, a loss in altitude could cause you to crash. So the residual risk comes out to high. A mitigation strategy is to have regular instrument training and also always trust your instruments. And to not put yourself in this situation, you can always avoid IMC if you're not properly trained or comfortable to do it. My last hazard is icing. The risk is stalling or losing your airflow over your control surfaces. The likelihood changes depending on your area and the season. Here in Longview, I put it down as possible because you may encounter icing depending on your altitude and the weather. The severity is the highest severe because icing is one of the most dangerous conditions to experience on a plane. With this, the residual risk comes out to very high. The mitigation strategy is if you have de-icing equipment, inspect it before takeoff to make sure everything is functional. And also, you can always avoid flying into these conditions. Putting these hazards into the matrix, we have the first one at a medium, second at high, and the third one at very high. My second scenario is from a personal project, from personal experience on a project. This is the Baja frame manufacturing. My first hazard is welding. The risk deals with hot metals, the intense slide from the arc, and also you're dealing with current. The likelihood is almost certain. Every time you're welding, you're going to experience these things. However, the severity is only minor. So the residual risk still comes out to high. The mitigation strategy is if you're the welder, wear your proper personal protective equipment, your gloves and your hood. You can always warn your co-workers when you're doing a welding procedure. And if you're working in the same area, you can always set a divider screen that protects the other workers from the arc, and that way you don't have to be hurting their eyes or be near hot metal. My second hazard is power tools. The risk can be losing control of the tool or having a catastrophic tool failure. The likelihood of this is unlikely. However, the severity is moderate because if your tool binds and you lose control of it, you might redirect it to a finger or to a coworker. Or something that I've witnessed is the part fails and it explodes like a cutting disc. I've seen a cutting disc explode and it hits someone in the chest and in the face. The residual risk comes out to medium. And to mitigate this, you also want to be wearing your PPE on your face, but you want to avoid using gloves. This is something we're taught here in MTDL to get your certification into the lab. That way you have more dexterity and control over the tool. You also want to inspect the tools you're using before you use them to check for their quality, make sure they're not broken or cracked. Lastly, I have machining equipment. The risk is you have spinning components that are very fast, and also when you're machining, you create loud sounds which can irritate the ear. The likelihood of this is unlikely. It's similar to the power tools. However, because you're dealing with heavier equipment, the severity does jump up to a major. The residual risk still comes out to a medium. And the mitigation strategy for this is to always be certified on the machines you're using. Do not try to use a machine you're not properly trained on. And also always wear the appropriate personal protective equipment. Putting these hazards back on the matrix, we have the first one at a high, and then second and third at medium. Thank you.